I saw the Marvels movie twice in theaters, and upon my second viewing, I realized that the MCU has a severe lack of young male superheroes, and no, Spider-Man does not count. Hello, I'm High Heel Knight. Welcome to my discussion/rant video. There are timestamps in the description area if you like to hop around. And I bet I know what you're thinking. Oh boy, another guy on the internet complaining about too many women in the MCU.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Well, before you jump down my throat, check out this clip from Grace Randolph's Beyond the Trailer YouTube channel.
Now, I'm sure you've heard the term MCU. It's being used by some fan communities. And yes, the term is extremely offensive, but it's also becoming undeniably true. Does a female character need to be spotlighted in every single project? Like at first it's like, whoa, calm down. So some female characters are, getting attention. Deal with it. But now I think all of us are like, it's getting to be a lot. What are you guys doing over there? And none of them are connecting. None of them are working. So wouldn't it be better, I think, to have a mix of leads, right? To cast a wider net of appeal and have a diversity of stories in every way possible.
For the record, I am very happy that there are women and girls superheroes throughout the MCU. I think you can see that I enjoy female superheroes and ladies taking the lead when it comes to my entertainment.
I don't know how you're gonna get through all of that.
Honey, I just blew up his entire ship all by myself.
Don't worry, she's got help.
Okay, ladies, now let's get informative. Oh, sorry. I don't really need your help. But thanks, girls. You all look great. Call me.
So no, I'm not complaining about too many women in the MCU. Instead, I am complaining about the lack of young male superheroes in the MCU. By the way, spoiler alert for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's no way I can discuss this topic without going into spoilers. You have been warned. To be clear, I'm talking about the superheroes that have been established in the MCU at the time of this recording. They have their powers, their special skills, their costumes, whatever. If Kevin Feige got on the phone and said, put a Young Avengers movie in production today, then these are the superheroes that have been established and are good to go. At the end of The Marvels, Kamala Khan attempts to recruit Kate Bishop, who I will refer to as Hawkeye 2, similarly to how Nick Fury tried to recruit Tony Stark at the conclusion of the first Iron Man movie. During the conversation, Kamala says, "You didn't think you were the only kid superhero, did you? Did you know that Ant-Man has a daughter?" The first time I saw the movie, I caught that line about young heroes. But on my second viewing, that's when I caught what she said about Ant-Man's daughter. That's what launched my train of thought out of the station. I wondered, who else might Kamala Khan recruit for her initiative? If she yelled, "Young Avengers Assemble," then who would be the teenagers and young adults that would rally to her side? By the way, I know that Ms. Marvel has been on a team called the Champions, but for this video, I'm going to be saying Young Avengers to emphasize the heroes that are under the age of 25.
Let's consider each murder one by one.
There is Miss America, better known as America Chavez, who was introduced in the second Doctor Strange movie. She has her powers and is undergoing training with the Mystic Monks. She is ready. There is Ironheart, who was introduced in the second Black Panther movie. The Wakandans kept her vibranium power suit, but that's not a problem. Riri Williams could probably build another battle suit in her garage with a box of scraps for her upcoming Disney Plus series. She is ready. The character of Stature has been around since the first Ant-Man film. The third movie established that she has a costume and experience with Pym particle technology. She is also eager to become a hero, so she is ready. There's the aforementioned Hawkeye 2. Kate Bishop was established in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series. She's been training since childhood and already has Clint Barton's blessings. She is ready. That's Miss Marvel, Miss America, Ironheart, Stature, and Hawkeye 2. 5 powerful, talented, and ready-made young female MCU superheroes. Sprite of the Eternals lost her superpowers and is technically thousands of years old, but heroes and villains lose and regain their powers all the time, and she looks like a young person. We can even toss in Love from the fourth Thor movie and that alien girl from the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Their personalities haven't been explored, but the films have established that they both have first-hand combat experience. They are ready. That's 8 potential female young Avengers. What about the fellas? Spider-Man is a teenage male superhero and a former Avenger, but here's why he doesn't count. The movie rights for Spider-Man and all Spider-Man related characters is firmly owned by Sony. Every time the MCU wants to feature Spider-Man, there needs to be a huge negotiation between Disney and Sony. And I don't just mean Peter Parker Spider-Man. All Spider-Man characters' movie rights are owned by Sony. The friends, the enemies, the classmates, the love interests, the co-workers, using any of those characters will require a special arrangement. That's why the Spider-Man solo movies always featured a major MCU character. The first one had Iron Man, the second movie had Nick Fury, and the third film had Doctor Strange. Furthermore, the conclusion of Spider-Man No Way Home practically reset Peter Parker back to square one. It allowed for the MCU to place an ending on the character, but still leave enough wiggle room for Spider-Man to return if Disney gets desperate enough. There will eventually be more Spider-Man movies, of course. However, the way Spider-Man will be utilized in future MCU projects is highly unpredictable. There is also a creative problem when it comes to Spider-Man. Spider-Man is among the very few heroes throughout the entire MCU that maintains a secret identity. Pretty much all the heroes and villains either have public identities or they don't really put any effort into protecting their identities. Plus we have characters like Doctor Strange and Miss America, who are actually named Dr. Stephen Strange and Miss America Chavez. Miss Marvel is supposed to have a secret identity, but she spent the entire Marvel's film without a mask on. That's why I got the Amazon exclusive version of the character, because it has the mask. Because she's supposed to have a secret identity, and I like the mask, but in the MCU movie, no mask. The MCU clearly doesn't want to bother with secret identities. So along with the corporate hangups that come with using Spider-Man, there's the creative hangups that come with using Spider-Man. So that's why I'm saying Spider-Man for now does not count. Let's go over the other young male superheroes that could be potentially recruited into the Young Avengers. Patriot, also known as Elijah Bradley, was introduced in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series, but he doesn't seem to have any superpowers. He doesn't have access to super soldier serum. He doesn't have a shield. He doesn't have a costume. He is not ready. Falcon, aka Joaquin Torres, was also introduced in the same Disney Plus show. He has been gifted Sam Wilson's previous flight gear, so that's helpful. However, we need to see how he will be utilized in the upcoming fourth Captain America film to know if he's available for the Young Avengers. We cannot consider Falcon 2 ready. Speed and Wiccan were first introduced as figments of Scarlet Witch's imagination in the WandaVision show. Then they were reintroduced as real children, but in random places throughout the multiverse in the second Doctor Strange movie. Are these kids real? Are they imaginary? Do we need to go to another universe where they exist and then retrieve them into the main universe? Will we have to involve the Scarlet Witch in the story? It's very complicated. Let's not consider Speed or Wiccan ready.
Where's the Vision? I mean, like, where's the Vision in all of this? But, like, also, where is Vision? He disappeared, and nobody's talking about it.
White Vision from the aforementioned WandaVision program is who knows where doing who knows what. Does he even know about his maybe imaginary, maybe real children? White Vision isn't ready. Scar. He was more like an Easter egg than a proper introduction in the She-Hulk Attorney at Law series. The character didn't speak a word. We didn't even get to see his entire body. Is he even still on Earth? He is not ready. Cloak and Dagger and all the kids from The Runaways, they are part of the MCU, but Kevin Feige usually avoids incorporating characters and stories from the, let's say, satellite Marvel Productions. As excited as folks were to see Professor X and Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness, I was amazed to see Anson Mount reprise his role as Blackfoot from the very failed Inhumans program. Kevin Feige has pretty much tried to ignore all the programs that were on ABC and Hulu and Freeform. So for now, let's just be on the safe side and say any characters from those ancillary programs are not ready. Star Fox and Adam Warlock, they're portrayed by Harry Styles and Will Porter respectively. I suppose they can pass for under 25. Warlock is on the Guardians of the Galaxy team with that little alien girl, but now that I think about it, should we really have heroes on two different teams at the same time? And then there's Star Fox. I don't think he should be anywhere near the Young Avengers. Is it really wise to have a guy around a bunch of teenage girls whose superpower is pheromone manipulation? I don't think Hulkling, Power Man 2, or Inferno have been established at all in the MCU at the time of this recording. We are supposed to get a Nova streaming series or movie eventually. The young Loki variant is hiding in that dimension outside of time. I nearly forgot about him, which I guess is okay because the second season totally forgot about him too. That's it, Kamala. There doesn't seem to be any young men ready to join your initiative. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's been 15 years. It gotta be Red Dagger.
Who?
Red Dagger?
What?
Red Dagger.
I have no idea what this is.
Oh! Red Dagger!
We got one!
Red Dagger was introduced in the Miss Marvel streaming series. He is a Pakistani vigilante and part of an organization that monitors extra-dimensional activities. Similar to Black Widow, Red Dagger doesn't have superpowers, but he's an amazing hand-to-hand fighter. He doesn't seem to have a secret identity. It's more of a keep it on the down low identity. He's also a potential love interest for Kamala Khan, so a dash of romance in the Young Avengers is possible. Red Dagger already knows Miss Marvel and his potential love interest for Miss Marvel. He's part of a spy network. He has very simple, easy to understand, super talents that can be utilized on screen. So yes, Red Dagger is ready, but still, one young male superhero? How could this be? Grace, any thoughts?
Some of you have pointed out the irony of Disney trying to make Marvel and Star Wars more female-oriented when the whole reason that these brands were purchased by Bob Iger in the first place was Disney realizing that they didn't have enough male interest in their brand. They were skewing very female and very young, aka families. And so Iger noticed that Universal, who also has theme parks, they need these IP not only to get these audience groups into the multiplex to watch their streaming services, but also to go to the theme parks. So Universal was much more male-oriented, which is a very lucrative market. And so Iger was like, what can I do? I know, I'll buy Marvel and Star Wars.
The primary reason that the Walt Disney Company purchased Marvel Entertainment was to have characters, stories, media, and products to sell to men and boys. And it has been very lucrative. Perhaps it's been too successful when it comes to the MCU. Having so many grown-up male characters meant that the MCU didn't need to worry about teenage superheroes. Little boys will always love pretending to be a giant rage monster or a rich dude flying around in body armor or a super powerful tribal king. Disney was all set with having new merchandise for little boys. The whole reason why teenage superheroes were introduced in comics in the first place was to entice new young readers as the older fans aged out of the hobby. While DC Comics gave us plenty of sidekicks like Supergirl, Aqualad, the Wonder Twins, and multiple Robins, the overwhelming majority of teenage and young adult superheroes in Marvel Comics were related to the X-Men, like the New Mutants, Alpha Flight, and Ecstatics. And if not for the X-Men, then the characters were tied to Spider-Man, like Miles Morales, Araña, and the Slingers. I already mentioned that Sony has all the movie rights when it comes to Spider-Man characters. and Disney only recently acquired Fox, and it is slowly bringing mutants into the frame. But during those main MCU years, pretty much anyone with the Spider or X logo was off limits. Although the MCU had to utilize so-called B and C list leftovers, young men and boys could easily get excited for the characters like Captain America and Thor. Even the more obscure characters like Ant-Man, Star-Lord, and War Machine have become household names. There was plenty of merchandise opportunities for the MCU despite the restrictions of arachnids and mutants. There were so many male characters that it made sense to start pushing female characters just to stop the MCU from being a sausage party. Not just with having superheroines like Captain Marvel, Valkyrie, and Mantis, but also gender-swapping characters like Ghost and Taskmaster to balance the scales. It was also smart to introduce young girl heroes like Hawkeye 2 and Ironheart. Again, this video isn't about too many women and girls in the MCU. This video is about the lack of teenage and young adult male superheroes in the MCU. Think about it. After 15 years and over 30 theatrical films and numerous shows on broadcast TV, cable TV, and streaming, how is it that the only male superhero good to go right now for a Young Avengers project is Red Dagger? How is it that we've had Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight, and the tease of the Black Knight, but we have yet to have Night Thrasher? He's just Batman as a black teenager. How hard can it be to figure out how to make Batman black teenager work on screen? I mentioned that we will eventually get a Nova streaming show or movie, but the Nova course was introduced in the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. That seed was planted way back in 2014. So why hasn't it bared any fruit yet?
Why won't anything grow?
Maybe it needs more fertilizer.
I'm only one man, Mark.
I try not to complain unless I have plausible solutions to bring to the table. There are a few options that the MCU could use. The MCU has never made one-to-one adaptations of the comic book source material. The story of Civil War in the movie is very different from the story in the comic books. And don't get me started on what the MCU is doing with the Thunderbolts. Each new movie and new television series introduces new characters. The second Avengers movie introduced Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Spider-Man was introduced in the third Captain America movie. Therefore, Kamala Khan's kids superhero team could be very different from the comic books as well. The team could be all females and just be named A-Force. A-Force was a brief series of comics that featured all female Avengers. Since the MCU has numerous ready-made girl heroes, the easiest thing to do would be to label them as A-Force. Not only is 5 a solid number for the team, but the members would include a black, a Pakistani, a lesbian Latina. So just have Bernie Feinstein come in and introduce her as Squirrel Girl, make her Jewish too, and you'll have the full multicultural spectrum for your movie. The MCU could also call the movie Marvel Rising. That was a set of animated projects geared towards young girls. Think of it as My Little Pony, except everyone is Twilight Sparkle and Rainbow Dash. The Marvel Rising team only had 2 young male heroes, so that's another plausible solution. But here's the thing, folks. Superheroes have always been and continue to be primarily enjoyed by boys and men. Yes, there are plenty of women that love superhero media. My mother has been collecting comic books ever since she was a little girl. That's why I tell people I've been loving superheroes before I was even alive. But when it comes to the overall overwhelming consumer base for superhero entertainment,
why are they staring?
Who cares? Just soak it in. Hello, boys.
yes, there have been plenty of male superheroes that have underperformed or bombed at the box office. Steel, Green Lantern, The Shadow, Dredd. The track record has hits and misses, but there have been hits along with those misses. So while Morbius will fail at the box office, Venom does exceptionally well. One version of Ninja Turtles does okay at the box office, while another version of the Ninja Turtles will blow away all the competition. The Punisher will struggle to find a good version in the box office, but Kick-Ass will be a surprise hit. And then you add recyclable pulp heroes like Tarzan, Hercules, Zorro, and Robin Hood into the mix, the success rate of men drastically go up. On the gender flip side, the track record for female superhero films have had a lot more duds than diamonds. The first Wonder Woman movie made nearly $1 billion at the box office, and the Captain Marvel movie made over $1 billion at the box office. However, the Captain Marvel film came right before Avengers Endgame, making it pretty much required viewing. And Wonder Woman probably would have made money simply for being Wonder Woman. I mean, you've had dozens of Superman and Batman and various other characters, but only now we're finally get Wonder Woman. It would have made money. But all other female superhero movies have flopped or underperformed. Birds of Prey, underperformed. Elektra, underperformed. Powerpuff Girls, underperformed. Red Sonja, Catwoman, Supergirl, Aeon Flux, Peppermint, flop, 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 flop. For the record, Black Panther Wakanda Forever was successful at the box office. However, Shuri became the protector of Wakanda because Chadwick Boseman passed away. So we can't really be sure if the movie still would have been successful if the plan all along was to make Shuri the new Black Panther in the follow-up film. It's also hard to judge the success of the Black Widow movie and the second Wonder Woman movie because they were simultaneously released in theaters and on streaming during the pandemic era. Who knows how well those films would have done if the world didn't have to shut down. But two movies that came out long before the word pandemic was in everyone's vocabulary were Barbarella and Barbed Wire. Those movies starred Jane Fonda and Pamela Anderson respectively, and they both bombed at the box office. How do you lose money on a film starring scantily clad blonde babes at the high points of their careers? You know that old saying, sex sells? Apparently not when it comes to female superheroes. At least those movies, as well as the other female flops that I mentioned, were released. The Batgirl streaming movie was canceled just as a tax write-off, while the Blue Beetle streaming movie was upgraded to a theatrical release. The head of the studio would rather take a barely known male superhero and put it in theaters rather than a known female superhero onto a streaming service.
What's up with that?
Back on the subject of blondes named Barb, the Barbie live-action movie was a huge success, but again, it's a large case of right place, right time. No one could have foreseen the surprising crossover phenomenon of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Those two movies helped each other into the stratosphere. But even if Barbie didn't have that extra boost, it would have still made a lot of money because it's Barbie. We've had multiple G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Ninja Turtles theatrical films, but only now we were getting Barbie? Jim and the Holograms and Josie and the Pussycats got live-action theatrical films before Barbie. We were long overdue for a live-action Barbie movie. People would have seen Barbie just out of sheer curiosity. Barbie was destined to make money.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
The Marvels, which was a girl power movie featuring actual girl power protagonists, flopped at the box office. Barbie, which was based on a dress-up doll struggling with self-identity and feuding with her long-term boyfriend, became the highest-grossing movie of 2023. Hollywood, especially Kevin Feige, what more evidence do you need? You pretty much have to look at the Frozen movies, the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil movies, and the Carrie films to find a persistent track record of female superpower films that have been successful or at least not total embarrassments. And heck, I'll even toss in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, the Maleficent movies, and both versions of the Little Mermaid theatrical films just to beef up the books a bit. My point is, Movies about women with superpowers have been successful, but movies about superhero women have been bungle after botch after bust after bomb. Now we have The Marvels, which is the lowest grossing MCU movie in franchise history, lower than any of the Phase 1 films starring the so-called leftover heroes. The second weekend box office for The Marvels was among the lowest drops in all of cinema history. The Marvels is yet another underperforming female superhero film to add to the pile of disappointments. But that's not even the weirdest statistic. Even though The Marvels was clearly geared toward bringing in girls and women, the majority share of the audience during its opening weekend were boys and men. Look at your screen. There's the proof from Grace Randolph's video. 65% male audience for the debut weekend of The Marvels, a film demanding that women show up to support. What happened to all the young girls and women? What movie were they watching?
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me, the problem.
If a movie like The Marvels can't bring in the female audience, then it would be absurd for its follow-up project to be A-Force or Marvel Rising. Men are just more interested in superheroes than women. That's not an opinion. It's documented fact. If the MCU presents another all-female or mostly female project, then what are the men supposed to do? Drag their female friends into the theaters kicking and screaming?
This is Rufus T. Firefly coming to you through the courtesy of the enemy. We're in a mess, folks. We're in a mess. Send help at once. If you can't send help, send 2 more women. Make it 3 more women.
Girls and women, as far as a leading demographic, just aren't into superheroes. Yes, they like girls with superpowers. They like Elsa. They like Sailor Moon. They like the Charmed ones. And yes, they like girls that are heroic that don't have powers, like Kim Possible or Katniss Everdeen or Sarah Connor. Heroic people come in all shapes, sizes, religions, territories, genders, and sexualities. But superheroes is something that has always appealed more to men and boys than women and girls. Yes, girls and women want to be fierce, capable, and powerful. However, ladies usually don't seek empowerment by being able to run faster than lightning or chopping a mountain down with the back of their hands. Instead, empowerment for women comes from being able to stand up to peer pressure, like in Mean Girls, or triumph through cooperation, like in Pitch Perfect, or overcome career obstacles, like in 9 to 5, or escape abusive relationships, like in The Invisible Man, or being in love with a dangerous bad boy, like in Twilight, or ignite social change, like in Erin Brockovich. Women enjoy Elastigirl and Violet, Raven and Starfire, Rainbow Dash and Rainbow Bright, but many of their heroes are found in stories about romance, self-discovery, personal growth, dealing with family, dealing with friends, just making it through on their own specialness. Women want to be able to defend themselves and protect themselves, of course. However, saving the day with a meaningful, heartfelt conversation is often a lot more rewarding than being able to punch a robot into space. As for Kamala Khan's team-up project, if her roster is filled with estrogen adventurers, then that is going to fail before the first draft is pinned. Because no amount of rewrites and reshoots and re-edits is going to change the demographic scale that's probably been around since humanity figured out how to tell stories as entertainment. And don't bother trying to argue that the first Avengers team only had 1 female, so it's only right that the young Avengers team only has 1 guy. If an all-female Ghostbusters failed, if the Powerpuff Girls failed, if Birds of Prey failed, if The Marvels failed, if scantily dressed, highly sexualized Jane Fonda and Pamela Anderson both failed at the box office, then what do you think an A-Force or Marvel Rising project is going to do? It's going to fail.
And that's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
The first rule of entertainment is Know your audience. I would happily watch an A-Force or Marvel Rising project because that's the kind of comic book nerd I am. But the Walt Disney Company isn't looking for just my money because they know it already has my money. Instead, the MCU is made for broad mass appeal. The MCU was made for casual audiences. Most importantly, the MCU was made for selling toys and merchandise to little boys and men. When it comes to female superhero movies, the people have spoken at the box office. The people have repeatedly spoken at the box office. Heroism for women is not the same as heroism for men. It should be no surprise that a lot of young girls and women would rather go to a 3-hour Taylor Swift concert multiple times than seeing an under 2-hour Marvel's film once. And on the small screen, we occasionally get breakouts like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Xena Warrior Princess, the classic Wonder Woman program. I'll even toss in the Equalizer reboot with Queen Latifah into that mix. But for all those heroic female standouts, how many versions of the Real Housewives and Teen Mom have there been? How many formulaic holiday rom-coms from Hallmark have there been? Grey's Anatomy is about to celebrate its 20th season, and Days of Our Lives have been going since the 60s. When is that hourglass going to run out of sand? Yes, there is crossover appeal with trashy soap operas, just like there is crossover appeal with mindless action slop. But when you look at the history of entertainment across the 20th and 21st century, women gravitate towards certain types of media. There is an undeniable consistency for what women want to see in movies and television. Aside from the occasional cat fight in a swimming pool, women want to spend their time and money on drama, romance, and magic more than combat, aggression, and physical dominance. In the Barbie live-action movie, the Kens resolve their conflict with the song, and the ladies get their territory back by ratifying their constitution. Could you imagine Rambo, Bad Boys, or Gladiator ending with everyone hugging after passing an act of Congress?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
To who's ever watching this, get the word out to the MCU. Get the word out to Kevin Feige. Because it's inexcusable that after all this time, Red Dagger is the only young male superhero ready for the Young Avengers initiative. So move up that Nova and Vision project. Reestablish Patriot in the upcoming Captain America film. I don't know, if there is a Spider-Man movie, introduce Speedball or Inferno as a rival or roommate or something like that. Bring in a Great Lakes Avenger if you have to. I don't care. Just whatever happens, Kevin Feige needs to make a bunch of teenage boys come fast.
Hey, phrase it!
I want superheroes to succeed. I know they can't all be winners, but I want a lot more winners than failures. But part of the winning strategy is making sure that the entertainment appeals to the audience that actually wants to see it and pay for it. And it's usually wiser to make products for an audience that you know wants the products instead of trying to make products for an audience that doesn't really care either way. Bud Light Beer, I'm looking directly at you. The MCU has a lot of great men heroes, a lot of great women heroes, and a lot of young girl heroes. But it is absurd that nearly all of the young male heroes are either caught up in contract conflicts or are so underdeveloped that they might as well not even exist. Again, it's not about too many women in the MCU. It's about the lack of young male superheroes readily available in the MCU after all this time. That's because superhero media, regardless of the special effects, the stunt work, the one-liners and catchphrases, the overpaid actors, the surprise cameos, and the hidden Easter eggs, the story always involves heroes and villains with crazy names and wacky costumes, punching, kicking, slicing, blasting, and detonating each other to resolve their conflicts. Punching one's way out of a problem has always been and continues to be more appealing to boys and men than girls and women. And there doesn't seem to be any evidence to suggest that trend would change anytime soon, if ever. Know your audience. It's great that the MCU has introduced a lot of female heroes in recent years, but the Young Avengers project will be dead on arrival if it doesn't cater to its audience, the true audience for superhero media, men and boys, which is why the Walt Disney Corporation purchased Marvel in the first place. If Disney wants to score a bunch of socio-political brownie points, then go ahead and make an A-Force or Marvel Rising film. If Disney wants to make money, then the Young Avengers movie better have a lot of young men on the team. That's not sexism, that's not anti-wokeism, that's not toxic masculinity, that's not even an opinion. That's just business.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
This video is being made about a month before the Madam Web film comes out. I hope it is successful, but based on the data, it probably won't be. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about Red Dagger? What are your thoughts about the lack of young men in the MCU? Write your comments in the comments section. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, or dislike, share, and subscribe. Once again, I'm High Heel Knight. Thank you for watching, and remember, find inspiration everywhere.